Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the US, and I'm coming to you today for my usual Tuesday afternoon lives. It is very hot here in Antioch, and I've been in the cool and in my craft room almost all day, and I have designed a card that I hope you like. It is using some supplies that I'll be using again very soon, and I'll tell you about that. So I'm going to turn my camera around right away so we can get started. This is the card that I designed today. I've been having fun using some of the free celebration items that you can earn with qualifying purchases. So for today, I'm using the Wonderful World stamp set, which also has some Wonderful World Designer Series paper. Let me just pull it out to show you. It's gorgeous. And these two come together sort of as a bundle. Here's the paper. Love the color palette. And the other side. Whoops. And so these you would get for free or earn for free with a $100 purchase, $100 merchandise purchase. And I'm also going to be using this set on Global Share Fair, as well as this Threw It Together stamp set, which has become probably one of my all-time favorite sentiment stamp sets. So let's get started. I am starting with a Flirty Flamingo card base today. As you know, I normally use basic white, but sometimes you just need that color. And I think this is one of those times. I love Flirty Flamingo. And then I've already cut my Designer Series paper. And it is cut at 2.5 inches by 5.5, or if you're working in centimeters, 6 centimeters by 14.9. And I'm going to grab my trimmer because we're going to do some scoring. And so we are going to score on the left-hand side at 1/2 inch. So I'm going to turn it upside down and put it in this way, and take my cutting blade out of the way, and then score it. And I'm going to go over it a couple times, but I'm not going to be too pushed down too much because this Designer Series paper is thinner than our cardstock, and we don't want to tear it. If you are in centimeters, score at 1.2 centimeters. And then we are going to just fold along that score line. And the idea is to show both sides of the Designer Series paper. So it looks like two different pieces, but it's just one. I like doing that. I haven't done that in a really long time. And this paper just worked nicely for that. So I'm going to grab my multi-purpose liquid glue. I don't know if this is, it is the one that's running out. Let me grab the other one. Both of them are kind of low, but this one definitely has more glue. And we're going to put some on that flap because we want it to stay down. So fold that over and press it till that glue catches. And I am going to use my bone folder. Oh, here it is. Wow, I put it someplace where it shouldn't be because I want to make that a nice crisp fold. So that's why I'm using my bone folder for that again. And then I'm just going to take my multi-purpose liquid glue again, and we're going to adhere this to the card. Yes, Charlene, I like using both sides of the DSP too. It just seems like a waste other than that. So I thought this was the perfect card to do it because I liked both sides, and they both coordinated with that Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to move this over more than I did on the original card. I just want a little bit of a border. I decided after the fact, after I did the first card, I decided I wanted a smaller border than the one here because when we put this piece down, I don't want it to cover up too much of the Designer Series paper. So now we're going to do some stamping, and we're going to get a little fancy today. We are going to grab that beautiful flower stamp from the set, and we're going to do some masking because I want two different colors. So I have cut already some little strips from our wonderful new masking paper, and just lay it down. I want it over the stems and the leaves because those we're going to color green, but I want the flowers to be an Orchid Oasis. And I have another little triangular strip that's going to go over the leaf and the stem, or most of them over here. And hopefully they will cooperate. I've been using them so they're not quite as sticky, but I still think it will work. And I'm going to grab my Orchid Oasis ink, and I'm going to ink it up. And I'm still going to stay toward where the flowers are. Pretty good. And then I'm going to move this out of the way, even though we may be using that again. And I'm going to take the mask off, the masks, and move those to the side. And you can see now that I can color those stems, but I don't want to use my ink pad. I think it's easier to use markers. And then you might say to me, well, Carol, why didn't you just use markers on the flowers? And I tried it, but with these stamps, I feel like they're distinctive stamps, even though Stampin' Up! Doesn't say they are. And when you use the markers, I don't know, the coverage isn't quite the same as using the ink pad, and I think the detail is much better with the ink pad. So that's why I use that for the flowers. And for the stems and leaves, it doesn't really matter as much. Now, I do have a little stray ink up here, a little bit of Orchid Oasis, so I'm just going to take it off with a Q-tip. And you don't have to. I don't know that anybody would really notice, but I'm going to do that just to show you. If it bothers you that, oh no, it's on a little bit of the stem, just use a Q-tip like that to take it off. And now I'm going to just take the brush end of my Pear Pizzazz, because that also coordinates with the set, and we're going to color the stems and the leaves. And then the same thing here. And it's great. You don't have to be very neat. You just have to go up until you reach the Orchid Oasis parts. And I did forget to say, I'm going to stamp this on a piece of cardstock that is 2 1/4 by 4 or 5.7 centimeters by 10.2. So it's kind of just big enough for this stamp, and that's what I wanted. And even though there's a lot of straight ink there, just stamping straight up and down, I don't have to worry about a shadow because I'm not pressing too hard. Pressing too hard or rocking will cause that shadow to show. So if you just give it nice firm pressure without going crazy and not rocking it, you'll be all set. And we also are going to stamp Forever Grateful, which is one of the sentiments from that wonderful Threw It Together stamp set. And we're going to stamp that in Flirty Flamingo. And I have a little tip that I know I've told you before, but it definitely was helpful doing this card. I'm going to bring in a scrap because I noticed that this sentiment wasn't quite straight. If I line it up on the grid paper, it goes up a little. So I'm going to, let's see, practice a couple times, and then we're going to be brave and do it right down at the bottom. Still up a little bit, sort of tilting up, but I'm going to be happy with that because the hard part is the flower, and I'm very happy with that. And then on the inside, I am going to grab that Orchid Oasis again. I knew I'd be needing it. Put that aside for a minute because for the inside of the card, we're going to stamp Thank You. I almost did it also in Flirty Flamingo, but I thought, oh, let's use, excuse me, the Orchid Oasis because it's darker so you can see it better. So we're going to grab that Thank You stamp and just stamp it right up here. And that one too goes up a little bit, but I'm not going to worry too much. That's what makes it handmade, right? And then I am going to take my Pear Pizzazz ink, and there's a leaf stamp in this set, and we're going to use that to just kind of highlight that sentiment because it's so little and so plain there. Isn't that pretty? I like that. It's a pretty leaf. Again, it looks like a distinctive stamp to me, but like I said, I don't think it says that it is in the catalog. And then if you want, you can also, maybe we'll do it now. Let's see, we have time. All right, we're going to stamp another one of those flowers on the inside here. And I recommend doing it before we put everything together, because once you put the ribbon on, you're going to get an uneven surface and it won't work so well. So I'll show you one more time how we're going to stamp and mask. Let me make sure you can see here. So I'm going to bring in my stamp again and my mask. Lay them right on there. Hopefully they'll stick. And my little triangle piece. And I haven't cleaned the stamp, but it doesn't really matter because I'm stamping in the same colors. And we're going to ink it up. And take off the other mask. I'm going to grab that Q-tip again. Doesn't look too bad, but I do want a little more green up there. And the same thing here. And again, you don't really have to. Depends how much of a perfectionist you are. And then I'm going to grab my marker. So it does go pretty quickly, and I'm going to show you some things I was kind of fooling with and practicing with. I almost did a card that had several flowers, but it was a little more labor intensive, I guess. It's the same idea as what we're doing. And then we're going to stamp on the inside. Oh, I like that because it's so plain over there. That just gives it some nice color, doesn't it? And I know, Barb, I know you like stamping on the left-hand side. So do I, just to change things up and make it a little more interesting. And then on the front, we are going to grab some ribbon. In this case, I have it's actually Sweet Sorbet metallic woven ribbon, but I think it works. It coordinates well enough. So I'm going to grab, oh, that's right. I thought I didn't need my glue dots today, but I do. I'm going to grab my glue dots, and we're going to cheat a little bit because it's so much easier to do this. We're going to put some ribbon, just a strip right around that piece of cardstock. Grab another glue dot for the other side, because I find that it's really hard to tie a bow all the way around a piece of cardstock. It gets twisted and it doesn't sit the right way. This is a way to make it easier. And we're going to take some Stampin' Seal and put this on the front of the card. And I want it centered top to bottom and over toward the right. So again, that beautiful Designer Series paper shows. And the reason I chose this flower is because it's in the Designer Series paper. You can see it in two places here and in one place here. So I was picking that up. And then we're going to make a bow. Much easier to do it this way. And you know me, I like doing it off the roll. I'm very inky today, as you can see. It is a little messy doing the masking, but it's really fun, and I like being able to make two different colors. And I'm going to take another glue dot, and I'm going to kind of scrunch it behind the knot a little bit because it's a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to grab it and push it together and grab it off, and then put it right here. Perfect. And that's it. That's our card already. On the envelope, I just stamped Forever Grateful, but you could also do one more flower and do it here. And I may add that after the fact, but I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. And so I didn't want to take too much time, but now you've seen me do it twice. I really like that. And if you wanted to, if you thought this was too dark, you could put a layer of basic white in there too, but I think it's light enough to write on, so that's why I left it that way. And I did play, like I said earlier, I was going for something like this initially, and just kind of playing with masking. Same technique for each flower. This is our wonderful Tahitian Tide. This is Flirty Flamingo. And I think that might be full strength. And this is Flirty Flamingo stamped off first, but exactly the same idea. So for this, I put the ink in Flirty Flamingo, took the masks off, stamped on my scrap, then added the green, and then stamped the Pear Pizzazz. What else did I want to say? Oh, and these are Melon Mambo stamped off, and this was full strength. I almost used this until I goofed it up. I didn't want it full strength. I wanted stamped off first. And then when I did this one, the rose was too high. And so this definitely takes a little longer, because not only do you use the same technique for the flower, but what you do is cut out from the masking paper masks for each of these flowers, the rose. And so you stamp it, and then you put this down right over it. And then the same thing with the iris. And I only cut out one side because that's all I needed. Excuse me, that's where the overlap is. And so you place this mask down on this side, and then you ink up the bigger one, the one that we used today. And again, I would stamp off if you're using Melon Mambo, because there's Melon Mambo in here, but it is definitely lighter than normal. I think they did a lot of stamping off on the paper. And then you stamp over all of this. And so then when you take the masks off, it looks like you have that big flower behind the smaller ones. So a very cool technique. And I really like it, but like I said, I was having issues getting the look I wanted, but you get the idea of what I was going for. And so hopefully I'll be able to use these on another project, but I thought it was a little too time consuming for Facebook Live, but I did want to show you how to do it. All right, that's it, my friends. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you watching. I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Happy stamping.